Hi everyone, I am so super excited about this video today. You all know that Chanel does something to me that I just cannot explain, and if you follow me on Instagram, you will have noticed that I might have just popped into Chanel for a little minute or two over the weekend and bought a few goodies. In fact, I bought the entire spring summer collection, which is limited edition, so if you want to get your hands on it, Chanel just remove these things as soon as it's gone, and regardless of how popular it has been in the past, it will not make a reappearance, which I think is a little sad, but now I have my hands on everything, apart from one of the blush shades. One of the blush shades I decided against. I may have to go and purchase that this Friday. I think I've spent more on Chanel in the last month or in the last couple of weeks than I have on paying my mortgage this month. It's an obscene amount of money. Do I feel guilty? No. So let me just show you what I picked up and what we're going to be trying on today. I obviously picked up the Mediterranean Quad, which looks absolutely divine. In the pan, these look very, very similar. However, swatched on the hand and also on the eyelid, completely different. I will show you swatches of these a little bit later on, but beautiful shades, antique golds, taupes, champagnes, just beautiful. I obviously picked up the blush. I'm actually quite surprised at myself that I refrained from picking up both blushes. They've got two in the collection. One is a lot deeper than the other. I could quite easily get away with both shades. But at £52 a pop, you understand why I only picked up one. I mean, there's only so much I can cope with. I almost had palpitations at checkout. Anyway, this one is in the shade Pêche Rose or Pêche Rosée. Throughout this video, you will come to realise I do not speak French. I also picked up the liquid eyeshadow. This is the Ombre Premiere Lacquer in the shade 46 Lumiere, and I'm not quite sure whether this is going to be limited edition. I assume so, as it's in this collection. And I picked up the highlight, which I'm really interested in trying. I have had a play around with that at the weekend, just, you know, test it out because I couldn't help myself. And I've also picked up a couple of the shades in the Rouge Cocoa Balm. I've got the shades Flirty Coral and Natural Charm. Let's try some of this on. So I'm just going to prime the eyelids using my P. Louise eyeshadow base. I've actually picked up a couple more shades over Christmas during the sales, just so that I've got something that is a little closer to my natural skin tone. So instead of going for the shade 1, I've now got the shade 2, which is a little bit deeper in shade and matches my natural skin tone a little bit better. So before I jump into the Mediterranean Eyeshadow Quad, which I just think is elegant, it's classy, it's understated, I really cannot wait to get this on my eyes. I am going to go for the liquid shadow first and just put a wash of that on the lid, just to see how it adheres to the lid, just so we can all visualize how beautiful this is. So I'm just going to put a swipe of that in the center of the lid and then blend it out with my fingers, just to get a base of that on there. This is the most stunning liquid shadow. I actually swatched this in store and was just blown away by the sheen that it provides. This does dry down quite quickly, but it's just, look how stunning that is. Let's just see how this builds as well. I'm just going to put a little bit extra in the center of the lid, see if we can build that up a bit more. It's very easy to build as well. Not that I think you'd want to build this up too much. The beauty of this is the subtlety. Absolutely beautiful. It's not going anywhere. This is going to be one of those liquid shadows that doesn't crease, that once you've got it on and it's set in place, it won't budge. Let me just show you the swatches of the beautiful Mediterranean Quad. So you've got a lovely champagne gold shade which has microparticles of glitter in there. That is the only truly sparkly shade, and it just adds a beautiful wash of glitter over the eyelid. You've then got two medium shades with a metallic sheen. One's more taupey, one has a pinky goldy hue, and then you have the deepest shade which is a beautiful antique gold. Super classy, really elegant. I think I'm going to say those two words quite a lot during this review because that just describes this collection to a T. Classy and elegant and understated. So I'm actually going to utilise the little sponge applicator that has been provided in the palette. Let's just see how it goes. I mean, if I was going on holiday, this is what I'd take, and then probably one brush to blend everything together. So I'm going to dip in, first of all, to the deepest of the shades, which picks up quite a lot. These are very soft shadows. They're not hard pressed. They're really, really pigmented, very soft and easy to work with. So I'm just going to tap that on the outer edge to begin with. Then once I've laid that down, I'll turn this round and go into this more taupey shade and place that right next to it. So lovely. These sit on the eyelid beautifully. Then I'm going to take the lower shade and just add that right next to it. And then finally, I'm going to pick up the clean sponge applicator and just place that right on that inner corner. And then get a brush and blend that together. That's such a simple and quick way to apply eyeshadows, but it's very effective and I love the end result. The one thing I will say is that the more sparkly of the four shades, the champagne gold shade, I've got significant fallout. So I would definitely suggest that you do your eyeshadow first rather than doing your full face of makeup and then doing your eyeshadow last. Otherwise you may struggle to clean this up. But I really love it so far. There are a lot of shades in my Natasha Denona Glam palette that you would probably be able to swatch and say, okay, if you've got the Glam palette, you probably don't need this. But it's a beautiful palette. If you're going away on holiday, this is the one that I would probably take over my Glam palette because the Glam palette is so big and this is so small and delicate. Okay, so while I was off camera finishing the other eye, I just decided to apply all the rest of my products that weren't included in the Chanel Spring Summer collection, so we can just get on with applying those products and not have to worry about the others. So I've applied foundation, concealer, brows, and a little dusting of powder. The foundation I've used today is the Chanel No. 1 foundation in the shade B10. I've done a full-blown review on this. If you want to hear my thoughts and feelings, I will link it up here for you and also at the end of the video. So I'm going to take the Mediterranean palette and take this taupey shade and just dust that underneath my eyelashes on the lower lash line. Only half the way across my eye though, because I want that lifted look, so I don't want to drag it all the way across. And then once I've done that, I'm just going to take the antique gold shade, which is the darkest shade in the palette, and just pop that right on the outer edge. It has been such a long time since I did an eyeshadow look using the little sponge applicators that come with the palette. And this is quite doable. I mean, I would probably prefer to do this with a little brush, and I am going to take a little brush and just fill in that area there, just because it's more accurate. But if I was going away, these would do. So I am so happy to say, and relieved, quite frankly, that the eyeshadow palette is an absolute triumph. These were effortless to apply, beautiful to blend. They are rich, they are soft, they are creamy, they are pigmented. Everything you want from an eyeshadow formula I got in this palette. The only negative was that I did get a little bit of fallout from the champagne-y glittery shade. I got less fallout on my second eye that I did because I knew I'd got to be careful after applying it and getting fallout with the first eye that I did. So it's definitely workable and it wasn't a problem. I just know I've got to do my eyes first when I'm using this palette if I'm using that particular shade. But love, love, love it. Now I know I said I was going to try the liquid shadow over the top of this. I actually don't want to ruin it. It is so stunning. So I'm just going to place a little bit in the inner corner just to add a bit of highlight on both sides. This is beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. See, this is what gets me really excited in life. I know that may be sad to a few of you, but I just love makeup. I just think it's magic stuff and it really lifts my mood. That tiny little bit of sparkle and little gleam of light in the inner corner just lifts this look even further. I mean, I'm going to be smiling for hours. Okay, let's try out the blush, and I don't think I could be any more excited at this point. My feet are doing a happy dance underneath the table. This is just exquisite. Look how heavenly this is. This is such a beautiful peachy shade right up my street. For those of you who are wondering how this compares with the other hundreds of blushes that I have in my collection, you'll be surprised to hear that I don't have something identical to this. I was actually quite floored because I do own a lot of blushes and this sort of tone is really my thing. So the most similar blush that I own is from Pat McGrath and it's in the shade Desert Orchid, and I will swatch those for you side by side now. The first one that you see on the left is the new Chanel in Pêche Rosée, and the one on the right is the Skin Fetish Divine blush from Pat McGrath in the shade Desert Orchid. But I also want to swatch you the last limited edition blush that I bought from Chanel. This is the blush and highlighter duo. So if you bought this and were wondering how it compares, here are the swatches of those. You'll notice that the blush and highlighter duo is far more pinky corally toned than the new blush Lumiere, which is much peachier in tone. So I noticed immediately as soon as I opened this up that there are tiny, teeny tiny microparticles of glitter in this. This is not going to make you look shiny or shimmery. You are not going to look like Edward Cullen when you go out in the sun. It's not that sort of shimmer. It's just going to give you that hint of radiance and bring the skin to life. So on that note, let's get some of this on. Before I ruin the beautiful embossed look to this blush, I just want to show you how stunning it is up close. Okay, so first impressions, this is actually quite a hard pressed blush, and when I only tapped into it twice, the colour payoff on the cheek wasn't immediately there. My Pat McGrath blushes are super soft and really pigmented, so I only have to dip into that once before I go onto the cheek, and sometimes that's a little too much. So with these, you can dip in a little bit more and possibly even swirl your brush in the pan. So I really like the fact that this is slightly more hard pressed in the pan for the main reason that I'm not going to lose the beautiful pattern on the top of this blush immediately like I thought it was just going to disappear straight away as soon as I dip my brush in the pan, but that's not going to be the case with this. You really do have to go to town in the pan to pick up the blush, which is going to be excellent for anybody that's a blush beginner and is really quite frightened about overly pigmented blushes. This is super pigmented, it's just you have to work at it a little bit more to pick up the product in the pan, which I really like. It's just going to take a little bit of getting used to, I think. Okay, so I've just applied a lick of mascara. You will notice today I don't have any bronzer on whatsoever, which is slightly unusual for me, but I wanted the blush to do the talking, and boy, is it talking. It's shouting rather loudly. I love it. This is just magical. I love the shade. I love the consistency. I love the sheen on the surface of the skin. You'll be seeing a lot of this in the background on my channel. It will feature in the description box in plenty of videos to come, I'm sure. So let's move on to the multi-use stick. This is the highlighter that I'm going to be using today, and this is the one product that has semi-shocked me, and that's not easily done. Actually, it is really easily done, isn't it? Let's just not beat about the bush. So this is like a terracotta-y shade in tone, but there's very little colour payoff for this unless you really cake it on. So don't be frightened by the tone if you have fair skin like mine, because it's not going to give you masses of colour payoff, but it will give you that glass skin shine. Very similar to the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz highlighter, which I raved about and loved. This gives a similar finish on the surface of the skin, that really glossy look. So I'm not going to swipe this directly on the cheek. I'm going to pop a bit of it on the back of my hand just to show you the swatch there. You can see very little colour payoff. It's just a blush of colour. And I'm just going to pick this up with my finger and tap that on my cheek. And you can see immediately that glossy finish. Very glass skin, very glowy, no glitter in this whatsoever. It's chic, very expensive looking. It's lovely. Now, I was a little bit worried that this was going to remain tacky on the skin. There is a slight little bit of tackiness there that is left, but it doesn't offend me, and I've got a feeling that that will tap into the skin a little bit further. But if you want a really glossy wet look, you are going to have to cake quite a lot of this on, and then it will remain tacky for the rest of the day. Let's move on to the Rouge Cocoa Balms. I have these in 2 shades. I was desperate to buy more, but you know, I just couldn't stretch, and I thought I was being a little greedy buying 2 rather than just sticking to 1. So we have the shades Flirty Coral and Natural Charm. I'm going to try Flirty Coral on first. It feels lovely on the lips. So it's a simple wash of colour. This is not super pigmented, but extremely pigmented for a balm. Let's try the other shade, which is probably the one that I'm going to go for today. I love that. That feels super hydrating and nourishing, very much like a balm, like it should do, but that wash of colour, I think I've got more colour payoff from this shade than I did from the Flirty Coral shade, but maybe I just didn't apply as much of the Flirty Coral as I have done this one, but I love that. I think this is my favourite out of the 2 that I bought, but I've got a feeling they'll be really nice mixed, so let's just try that. Oh yeah. So that's the final look using all of the limited edition spring summer collection from Chanel. I've loved using every single one of these items, but there is a but. Whilst I was off camera straightening my hair for the big reveal, I found that a lot of my hair was sticking to the tops of my cheekbones where I'd got the highlighter. Now I have just powdered a little bit over the glossiness, and it hasn't dulled down the glossy sheen on the surface of the skin, but it has taken a little bit of that tackiness away. Now I do know that I properly went to town on applying this. It's not necessary, you only need the tiniest amount, so I will play around with this a little bit more to see whether I can get it so that the tackiness really does sink into the skin and there's none left on the surface, because, you know, Other than that, I will save it for those days where I know my hair is going to be off my face, so there's just no risk of me getting hair stuck to my skin, which I cannot stand. But it is a beautiful look. So I hope you've really enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. I know there's been a little bit of Chanel on my channel recently. There was one on Friday, there's one today, there may be a couple of Chanel products featuring in the video on Wednesday this week. So there's been a lot of Chanel. I do promise that there will be some more affordable content winging its way to you very, very soon. So if you're more into the affordable makeup reviews, definitely stay tuned. There is some on its way. Anyway, hope to see you all in the next video. Bye everyone.